Hey everybody, this is Susan. Thanks for tuning into my video. Today I'm going to be doing a really loose watercolor landscape. I'm just trying to loosen up on my painting, and doing things like this where you don't have any pressure and it's just for fun are a great way to help just learn about your watercolors, what they'll do, how they react with each other. And I'm just going to let the watercolors do their thing on this as they mix with water and mix with themselves. Before I start though, I hope that when you see this, you'll like this video and give it a thumbs up. And please think about subscribing to my channel. Leave a comment down below if you'd like. Those always encourage me to make more videos. And all of the supplies that I'll be using will be listed in the description underneath the video. If you see something you want to try, I'll link to it down underneath there. So the first thing I'm going to do is tape my paper down to this piece of gator board that I have. That way, if I decide I want to pick it up and make the water run in a certain direction, make the paints run in a certain direction, I can. If it's taped right to my table, of course I can't pick the table up and make the paints run. So that's why I'm putting it on here. Also, when you tape your painting down, as it dries, it will dry flat and you won't have all these wrinkles in your painting. It won't be warped and wiggly like this. Another reason that I like to tape my paintings down is because it gives us a nice sharp edge, and that makes any painting look better. When you take the tape off and it's got this nice crisp edge to it, it's a good thing. All right, the picture I'm going to be doing is this one. It's a picture from my trip to Croatia that I did recently. I took it out of the car window. So some things to remember when you're doing your watercolor are, number one, that things that are further away are lighter than things that are closer. So you don't have to make everything the same darkness. You don't have to make everything too bright. It's okay to have some places lighter, some places darker, and that'll give your watercolor a little more interest. Also, just because it's loose doesn't mean that I can't sketch out some, just like a roadmap for it. I want to know where things are going to go. So I'm going to do that. The house might be a little big. If this were a really nice painting, not just a sketch, I would not just use my regular eraser to erase it. I would be using a nice kneaded eraser, which is softer and won't mark up the paper. So there's the house. The barn is going to be over here. Okay. And then we have where the fields come in, more shallow. And then this line that's like a windbreak a little bit. I'm going to suggest where the trees are behind the house. And they get smaller over here. And just sketch in some mountain shapes. They don't have to be exactly like the mountains in the picture. But I'll put this picture on my Pinterest page, and you can use it for a resource. If you'd like to paint the same thing, you can give it a try. And I'll link to that down underneath in the description as well. I can't remember if I went through all the supplies you're going to need, but you're going to need gator board, tape, watercolor paper, paintbrush, not one that's too small. This is a number 10. Of course, you're going to need a pencil to sketch. I have 2 jars of water here because green is a super strong color, and it gets into the brush. And if I want to change colors, sometimes it'll tint my other color green. I also have a spray bottle because I'm going to spray my paints and just wet them before I start painting, sort of get them activated. And I'm going to want to have a paper towel just to soak up any puddles or take extra paint off of my brush. Now we can get started. And I'm going to wet the sky up here. You know what? I want to lower these mountains too. I haven't wet this part yet, so I can do it. If it were already wet there, I would never erase on top of it. It would just rip the paper up. Okay. I just want to move more sky because I like blue. Okay, I'm just wetting this. It's not just puddles of water. It's got a nice sheen to it. And then you can see the sheen, and you can sort of tilt the paper, and in the reflection on the water that's on there, you'll be able to see where you need to make it wet, the places that you missed with the water. All right, and I'm making that line just down to where I want the tops of my mountains to be. I'm just bringing the water down to here, where the tops of the mountains are going to be. The paint won't spread beyond that. It will stop where the water is. And for my sky, I'm going to use a couple of colors just to give it some interest. I'm going to use a cerulean blue. I have a little turquoise. And I have some Windsor blue, which I think makes a pretty sky. All right. I'm going to start up here at the top. I'm just leaving blanks where I want there to be some clouds. Nice soft sky. I can experiment with tilting now and make the paint run. It looks a little like it's raining when it's doing that. Just go see what happens if I add some more dots of paint along here. Just giving the sky a little more interest and just, like I said, playing to see what happens. I think that's too bright, so I'm drying my brush and I'm picking up that extra paint with my dry brush. There we go. And say you go in and the water makes your paint spread so much that it covers up your clouds. You can always take your paper towel and go in and reestablish your clouds by making just a little ball with it and then pressing it in. And yeah, make some clouds that way. Why not? See? All right. And now I'm going to work down here on the bottom while I let that dry a little bit. Again, I'm going to wet this whole area. And it seems to be sort of a yellow-green in my picture. It's a warm green. So I'm going to go ahead and just get some yellow. Let's drop in some yellow. And then I'm just going to let it mix. See what happens if I mix it with blue on the page. You can make, oh, it's making a nice pretty green. So I'm just letting the colors mix on the page. Just gonna let that sit for a little bit. Let's go in and do some of the mountains. The mountains are a cool green, so I have a phthalo green, but I don't want it to be too cool. I'm gonna add a little sap green. I'm adding a little ultramarine blue to it, just until I get the color I want. Now I'm gonna go in and do the top parts of the mountains where you can see there are a lot of trees. And then below those trees, they're fields. And so I'm gonna put those fields in after I put in these parts with the trees. Some of the trees run down into little valleys. Just do what you want with it. Tilt it down a little bit. My green is running up into my sky because it's still wet, and I really don't want it to do too much of that. A little bit is okay. But tilting it will make my green come down. You can see because of the puddles that are down here. I'm just going to come in now with my sap green and a little yellow and put in where the fields are. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to pick up some of these puddles that are on the bottom edge. All right, now I'll come in and show these fields that are below the tree line. And I'm going to go right down to where the trees behind the house are. That green is still really going up, but you know, it looks sort of like trees growing up out of the tops of the mountain. So you can't beat them, join them. I'm going to make it look like that was a decision I made. Hey, there we go. Come in and now wet on down. Oops, I didn't mean to get it on the house. Just wet the rest of this down to where my horizon is, where my field meets the trees. I'm being careful not to paint on top of the little houses. Not careful enough though. Okay, now I've dried this off a little bit, and I've decided I really don't like this where the green has gone up into the sky. So to solve that, I'm just going to repaint my mountain up higher. Now I'm going to move on to do the trees that are behind the house. These trees are sort of outlined in a yellow at the top, and I'm moving my brush in sort of a circular motion, just mimicking the edge of those trees. Make sure you make some taller, some shorter. I'm going to come in now and just wet and let that paint go on down. There we go. There we go. And now I'm going to add in some darks. I'm going to use a little more of my ultramarine blue and just pop in some dark areas where the branches are making shadows. painting, there is a bunch of like grasses that are, in my photo, there are a bunch of grasses that are growing up in front of the house and along the edge. I meant to mention, you see how much lighter my watercolors are now that they're dry? They dry so much lighter than they are when they're wet. So I'm gonna just hold my brush straight up and down, and with the tip, I'm just gonna make some little teeny flicking motions. Let me where these sort of brown grasses are. I'm going to put in the trees. They're in that tree break, and I've got yellow on my brush, and I'm just going right over top of this green. I'm going to now dry it off and pick up some of the paint. So I'm painting sort of negatively here. I'm picking up paint to make these trees. And I have yellow on my brush because I didn't want that green to be left in my brush, which would just blend in with the trees that were back there. All right, so you can sort of see where those trees are going to be now, I think. All right. Once again, I'm going to let this dry a little bit. As you can see, it dries much more, it's much lighter when it's dry. I'm going to go in with some more of my sap green and yellow, and again, just bring out these trees. I'm just using my brush, making these little round motions that to me look like places where there are clumps of leaves. Again, I'm going to go in and work on these trees. Pick up some of this paint with a dry brush. Drying it with my... I didn't just leave blank spaces for them because I didn't want them to have hard edges, and this way they have nice soft edges. A little under the bottoms of them. Make it look like they have some shadow. They also have some shadows under here. And for their trunks, I'm going to just take the back of my brush and press into the paper and draw some lines up there and use that to make the trunks. There we go. And I'm going to work a little more on these grasses here. Just adding some other colors. Painting around these trees. This is like negative painting is what this is called, when you paint in the negative spaces around something instead of actually painting it. Oh, got some on my cabin. Now let's go and work on the foreground a little more with those yellows, but I said it was a really warm yellow green. Now I'm going to work on my house. Got a little very watered down Payne's Gray to be the roof. And now I'm just going to suggest the windows. I'll get a little blue on here, I think, in those windows, with just little marks, little squares. There you go. And it looks like there's maybe a little porch in the front. Add that. And some windows under here. And there isn't a door, but I'm adding a door because I think it needs a door. All right, and now my little cabin on the side, I'm going to use a little, again, raw umber. I'm going to come on the side, just sketch that in. We'll let that dry a little bit, but I think this needs some color of some kind. I'm going to add some poppies in this field. This could be a colossal mistake or a great idea, but I just want to have a little more color in this. I'm just putting the tiniest drops of red with my brush just to look like little flowers in the field. I think I'm done. It was a fun, easy, fast watercolor, and I hope you enjoyed watching me do it. I hope you'll try doing something like this. Is it going to hang in the Louvre? Probably never, but I enjoyed doing it, and I think a loose, quick watercolor is always fun. Anybody can do this. There's no way to really mess it up. You can always just let it dry and come back in and correct your mistakes just like I did. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please let me know if you try it. Leave a suggestion or a mention in the comments below. Take care. Bye-bye.